Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this event. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us in this space to hear this wonderful woman talk about wonderful things. My name is Rachel Robinson, and I'm the president of the Interfaith Student Council here at Grand Valley. I am also the newest associate of the Kaufman Interfaith Institute and glad to be part of the team. The Kaufman Interfaith Institute offers a broad range of programming that advances equity and belonging for all persons of religious, secular, and spiritual identities by fostering human connection, interfaith understanding, and a collective transformation on campus and in the wider West Michigan community. One of the great pioneers of the interfaith movement in West Michigan was Rabbi Dr. Phillip Sigal. Aside from his duties at the Congregation at Havas, Israel, Rabbi Sigal was instrumental in opening up the lines of communication along several religions in the area. After his untimely death in 1985, a group of local academics and interfaith enthusiasts established a memorial lecture fund in Rabbi Sigal's honor. From that time forward, the Kaufman Interfaith Institute, in conjunction with the Interfaith Dialogue Association, has brought to churches, schools, and other lecture halls some of the most important voices in religion and social movements of the day. The annual Rabbi Phillip Sigal Interfaith Leadership Lecture continues to elevate powerful voices within the interfaith movement who are leading to charge the next generation of justice, equity, and pluralism. Living into that work and in the spirit of authentic relationship building, before I introduce our speaker, I'll begin our time together by pausing and acknowledging the land on which we gather. We recognize the people of the Three Fires, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi peoples. We are guests on their land, and one way to practice right relations is to acknowledge the histories, teachings, and traditions of the people who originated here first, who are still here, and who tend to the land always. As an interfaith organization, we have a particular responsibility to acknowledge the role that faith communities have played in the history of broken treaties, forced removal, cultural erasure, and genocide of Native peoples. Framing the history is the first of many steps we can take to practice right relations. I encourage everyone to live in this essential work of repair by supporting the Grand River Bands of Ottawa Indians and the ongoing efforts for federal recognition. Visit grandriverbands.com/takeaction for more information or contact local legislatures, And now a little bit of our Rabbi Sigal Leadership Lecturer, Syda Segovia Taylor. Syda is the founder and executive director of Organic Oneness, a grassroots organization dedicated to eliminating racism and creating healthy communities in Chicago. Through consultative framework, Organic Oneness co-creates with a multitude of partners to provide educational, transformational, and service-oriented spaces that foster a mindset of truth and justice at the individual, community, and institutional levels, with the overall goal of changing systems for the betterment of BIPOC communities. With over 25 years of experience connecting Black and Latiné youth and families to racial and environmental justice, healing and wellness, and the oneness of humanity, Syda embodies the core tenets of her Baha'i faith in her work. Her leadership spans prominent Chicago institutions, including Project Exploration, After School Matters, Chicago Public Schools, and the Chicago Park District. She serves as a national partner for the Be the Healing movement with world-renowned educator and author Dr. Joy DeGruy, and shares their community building experiences from racial trauma on the speaking platform of BahaiTeachings.org. Peace and unity have been the focus of many of her public talks, and we are thrilled that she'll be speaking on the inevitability of world peace today. Please join me in welcoming Syda to the podium.
Thank you so much for creating this space for all of us to talk about such an important topic, a new way of thinking, a creative way and an imaginative way of thinking to get us to a place that we all long for. World peace is inevitable. When I say this, some people say, are you naive? Are you crazy? Do you not watch the news? Do you not know what's going on? You live in a bubble. I've heard all these kinds of things, and I'm telling you, it is possible. All of our faith traditions, scriptures have promised that world peace will be here on earth. There will be heaven on earth. And so if we're not going to listen to what God is saying, then I'm just going to go on my own path and continue promoting what the scriptures say. So who am I? Thank you so much for reading my bio. We get so caught up in our accomplishments, and I like to bring out who I am as a human being and what even got me to those points that I kind of fell into. Everything that she read was not intentional. I did not plan to start my own nonprofit. I did not plan to be a social justice activist. I did not plan any of this. All I wanted was for people to be happy around me. And that wasn't happening. It wasn't happening because of either gender or color or religion. And I was taught that the first thing I should do and focus on is to bring happiness, to always have a smile on my face, to always ask, how are you doing? And other people weren't doing that. And what I thought was common sense of we're all one human family, we're all interconnected, we're all living on one earth. All these things that I thought was common sense. As I grew older, it wasn't to others. And so the state of the world just made me get louder with that message. So the human side of me. So I have a big family, all of which are not on here. This is just my immediate family. So my in-laws, my niece, my daughter, my parents on the end over there. So multicultural family. I used to be a dancer. I still am in my brain. My body thinks differently, but in my brain I am, and in my heart. Let's go over there. I am a Baha'i, so that's the Baha'i temple. If you're ever in Wilmette in Chicago, I highly recommend visiting it. It's considered by the Tourist Bureau one of the 7 wonders of Illinois because of the architecture. So definitely go there. That's my brother and my sister-in-law and new niece. I just visited her. And then let's go down here. So I am a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor. I had mastectomy, chemo, radiation, 5 years of tamoxifen, several years of plastic surgery and recovery. And it was there that made me say, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I going through this? And if I get through this, how am I going to use my life for the betterment of the world? How can I be purposeful? So because of that journey, I took a deep dive into earth health and wellness and the interconnectedness of our bodies and the earth. We need the sun, we need the trees, the oxygen, the soil, the fruits and vegetables. We need all that so that we can live. And the further we get away from understanding our interconnectedness with the earth, the further away we get from health. So we have to figure out, how do we incorporate our lives with the earth and start a healthy cycle? So that's a whole other talk, but that's, so vegetables, fruits, plants, and then starting the organization, and I wouldn't call myself a speaker. I would call myself a teacher. I used to be a teacher. I was a gym teacher, actually, and health teacher. And so if I categorize myself as a speaker, I get a little bit nervous. So just pretend we're in a classroom. But that's been my journey, is that in each arena that I'm in, each class, each job, I just did my best. And I paid attention to the people around me. And that's what I think put me in the category of what some would say I'm a leader. But I think we're all leaders. We're all leaders in our own way. We all bring our own gifts. We all are uniquely made. And so you're all leaders. We're living in a time where there should be no hierarchy anymore, but more of a circular model where all of us can contribute to the advancement of society. So I believe we're in a room full of leaders. So why is this talk important? We all know the state of the world right now. You can put on any news channel, you can talk to anybody, and there is chaos, turmoil, turbulence, any synonym of those words, that's what's happening. And it becomes discouraging. And so it's important for us to have these spaces to remind us of what is possible, remind us of what we've gone through as humanity, and look at, okay, we survived that, we can keep going. And we survived this, and we can keep going. And so I'm here to tell you that it is possible for us to be at peace with one another, even if it's in this room. How are we with each other? And so in my journey of doing this for 30 years, there are 3 things that I've seen with community members and working with people. And that is 3 things that are important are character, how we make decisions, and how we see each other. Those 3 things is what's going to help us transform society. If we can focus on those 3 things and improving those 3 things, our character, how we see each other, and how we make decisions, that is going to be the turning piece. So I'm glad that you all are here today. And so with what I just said, I want to offer you something that a lot of us see as very divisive. We see religion as mine is right, yours is wrong, this is what we do better, and that's not how I see things. I see things through an interconnected lens. And so God, the unknowable essence that we sometimes call Allah, Dios, is the same God that touches us all. It's like the sun. No matter where you're standing in the world, it's the same sun. And so that's how God is. And God's purpose is to help us unite and live in harmony and love one another. So as soon as we're hurting each other, we are not following God's plan. All these wars that are happening in the name of God is not in the name of God. It is in the name of our egos and human nature going awry. And so the way we learn about God is through religion, starting with Abraham and going all the way to Baha'u'llah. Now, each of the religions from Abraham, they came with a certain message to help us understand God, but was developmentally appropriate for where humanity was. So Abraham could teach the same things as Muhammad, the Bab, or Baha'u'llah. It's just humanity and the stage that we were in developmentally. We didn't know what world peace, we didn't understand what world was back in the times of Abraham. So Abraham's message was, you have a soul. You have a soul and you're a human being and there's a God, in simple terms. Then Krishna came. Okay, you have a soul. Now that you know you have a soul and there's a God, now I want you to understand how to communicate and be with other souls. And so the virtues of love and compassion is a common thread that goes through, but what changes is how the world is. So progressive revelation is what we call this. As the world progresses, so do God's teachings. So the next one is here. Okay, now that you understand that you're a soul and you can communicate with another soul, now I'm going to teach you about family units and the unity in the family. And the next messenger, okay, now that we understand family unity, we're going to look at tribes and how do we stay unified in tribes. Then it expands to the next one. Okay, now cities. What is the message from God for the unification of cities? And then nations. And now Baha'u'llah's teachings are here to teach us about global unity. And I'm sure we can all agree with getting on our phones and being able to understand what's going across the world. We are at a time where we need to figure out how to have global unity. So we learn about God through the religions. And then there's humanity. So these are the three onenesses. There's the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, and now the oneness of humanity. And this one is the one that we're really struggling with. Because unlike the religions and us being able to almost hide our faith, we can't hide the color of our skin, mask our accents, or change our gender. We are what we see. And unfortunately, the way humanity has been functioning is that depending on what you are, puts you in this ranking order based on skin color, gender, religious affiliation. And so those are the things that we have to figure out how to make better, how to heal from. Because we are all interconnected. And when one part of the organism suffers, the rest will feel its consequences. So one of the things that you all know that is plaguing this country and global society is racism. Racism is the most baneful and persistent evil and is a major barrier to world peace. Racism is the most vital and challenging issue confronting America. And ignoring this issue is exposing us to moral, physical, and spiritual danger. And we're at a time right now where it has plagued our society and weakened our immune system as a nation, that it is opening the gates for international warfare. And so it's important that we all get on the same page with what needs to happen with us seeing each other as gifts to society instead of a burden. I was brought up in the Baha'i faith, and I'm what you consider a second generation Baha'i. So my parents are Baha'is, and I was born into the faith, but just because I'm born into the faith doesn't mean I'm automatically a Baha'i. At the age 15, that's when you declare and you say, yes, I'm a Baha'i. And unity and diversity was always talked about. I was raised memorizing scriptures. Ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch, waves of one sea. So I was brought up thinking that we're one human family. That, again, was common sense to me. And the only reason that we look different is because of the way because of where we grew up in the world and our interaction with the sun and the land. And these are just superficial things that we shouldn't really take into account, except for those are gifts. Those are gifts of diversity. Because somebody looks different from me means that they can tell me something that I have nothing to do with or know about. So I saw people as treasures of knowledge. I saw them as souls that were going to reveal to me another part of God. So that's how I was raised. And when I was in 4th grade, that's when I started to notice that people were being treated differently. And I had this one friend, Kareem. So we were all at lunch, and I went to an under-resourced school. Didn't know that until I was an adult. I just thought life was the way life was. And so the boys were what we would call troubled children. And they would just make a ruckus and like just run wild in the hallways. The teachers were always trying to, control them and, put them in their place, and punishment and sending them to the office. And I was a good kid by default. I really didn't do anything to be good, but just be still. But because everybody else was just doing all of these things, I got awards in the assembly. I was able to go to movie night, all these wonderful things. And I didn't know what was I doing that was special. I just kind of, So my friend Kareem, this one day, we were in gym and the boys were being boys. Again, this is 4th grade. And just chaos broke out this one particular day, so much that the principal came. He seemed like he was a giant, but I was in 4th grade and I'm still short. But he came in with the big measuring stick. And he held it in hand, and he had Kareem in his other hand, and he just dragged him to the front of the classroom. And he said, "I'm tired," and hit the desk. And he said, "I'm tired of dealing with this behavior. I'm going to show you what's going to happen to you if you don't listen." And he said, and he's grabbing him and shaking Kareem. And he said, I'm going to hit him, and so that you guys know how you're supposed to behave. And so this doesn't happen to you. And some of the girls that were around me were just stunned. And the principal, the teacher said, I don't want to see this. And she walks out. And when she walked out, it was like a switch went in him. And he said, "Who else doesn't want to see this? If anybody else in here doesn't want to see this, then I won't do this. But know that this is a warning." And so my 4th grade little hand, I just started pushing it up, and I just start crying. And I had to grab myself and almost push my hand up like this, because all the boys around me said, "Don't put your hand up. What are you doing? I want to see him get hit." And I just started crying, but I'm holding my hand up. And the principal again hits the desk and breaks the ruler. He said, "How am I supposed to make this school better? I don't want you in my school anymore." And so then the teacher came back in, the principal goes rushing out, and then we all get in line to go for water. And my friend Kareem is at the door. And as I'm walking out, he says, "Thank you so much." And while I had my hand up, I felt like I was fighting against all of society. Because in my family, you don't go against teachers, let alone the principal. So at that moment, I was going against what my parents said, what the administration in the school said, but I knew in my heart that Kareem didn't deserve that. And if I had to stand alone to help him, then I had to stand alone. And so, I don't know how this slide triggered that story, but unity and diversity to me is really important. And we have to see that when somebody is harmed, that's harming our treasure, our gem in society, and they can't contribute what they're supposed to contribute if that's how we're treating each other. And so we have to see the beauty in diversity, and we have to really embrace our differences as something that we need. So I know this is a lot of words here, and I can send it so that you can see it, or you can Google it online. But this really helped me understand how special humanity is and what we have to contribute as cultural values. This is an adaptation from 1987, so I'm sure some of the language is off. But this really helped me. And if you ever get a chance to see Dr. Joy DeGruy present this, please do, because I'm not going to do it justice compared to how she presents it. But I do want to share this knowledge with you, because it's helped me understand what we're living in and what other forms of knowledge there is. So we have the ethnic groups and the worldviews here, axiology, which is the value system, epistemology, logic, and process. Now, the European, Euro-American, I'm going to talk about that one a lot, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the second one, only because that's my lived experience, and you can just read the rest on your own. So the European value system. So if you think back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, what shapes our value system is our relationship to the land and our resources. And so the European value system at that time only had 3 months to cultivate food. 3 months. So that they can live the rest of the year, because it was so cold. They only had 3 months of warm weather. So the number 3 becomes very important, because if you didn't craft what you needed to craft in order for food to develop, then you were out of luck. Then you're facing death. So you had to be so savvy in those 3 months to get enough food for your family, your village, to survive those cold months. And so what becomes very important in European culture is counting and measuring. Their relationship with the food for survival is really important, and the only way that they can cultivate this food is by counting and measuring how much they put in the land, the time of the day. Everything was calculated so precisely, or else they would die. So counting and measuring becomes very important, and the highest value is the member to the object, member to the food. And so there's no time or gray space for this way of thinking. It's not, well, let's try that. There's no room. So dichotomy becomes a way of thinking. It's either this or this. We're not experimenting because we have all these kids to feed. It's this or this. And our sense of time becomes very important. And that's where a lot of anxiety. So if you're from another group here, we kind of think like, ooh, time is, I got to get there on time. When we're at work, got to get there on time. Time drives European culture. And so that transfers over to here in America. And so this way of thinking, this anxiety about time and counting and measuring, and there's no gray space for anything, is what's leading all of our institutions. So the number 3 is transferred over into your 90-day period. Are you good enough to stay at this job? Because those 3 months will determine if you're good enough for the rest of the year. That's where the report card, every 3 months, there's a report card. We're going to count and measure the children's ability to learn in 3 months, every 3 months, because that will keep us on track with how well they're doing. And then once we perfect something, we're going to replicate it. Because if I have enough land and I know how to yield crop, I'm going to do that exact thing a whole bunch of times, because that gives us chance for survival. And that's how all of our systems are run here in America. Now, if you're someone of African descent, Latinx, Arab, African American, our sense of time is very different. Where the European is straight and narrow, it's linear and sequential. Something happens after another thing. It goes forward. Once you lose that time, doesn't come back. That's it. You just keep going. Where the next box under African, African American, Latinx, and Arab, our time is spiral. What goes around comes around. If I don't get it done today, I'll do it tomorrow. And so there's just this difference of seeing time, because we have warm climate all year round. So food is not so much of an issue, but our relationship with one another becomes our value system. We know a thing from symbolic imagery and rhythm. So there's a lot of music involved, a lot of storytelling, a lot of things passed down from our ancestors. That's how we know things. Of opposites. So things can happen at the same time. And then if we go to here, Asian is member to group. And the next one, the greatest value system, is member to the Great Spirit. And so do you see, like, if we all learn from each other the wholeness of humanity, we would know how to interact with the land and our objects and our jobs and everything. We would know how to be with people, member to member. We would know how to function in groups. We would know how to function in alignment with the Great Spirit. All of us have something to contribute. Now, the danger that we face is that in America and most of the world, we're functioning on the European system. And nobody is telling us that. We're just falling into it, wondering why Black and Latinx students are failing. Well, no one taught me how to code switch. Nobody taught me the language or the hidden cultural value systems, cues, and, nobody taught me that. So we're constantly feeling like we're wrong. And that's because we're in a system that is unfamiliar to us. So this is the beauty of our knowledge. If we just came together to share. Imagine if we utilized all of this to help with climate change. If we use this to figure out how to deal with violence or any medical tragedy, this in its totality is something that can help us get us through, but we just have to open our minds and welcome it. So equality of men and women. This is another thing. Let's see how much time we have. Okay, oh man, okay. So I'm gonna tell another story. So, so the world of humanity has two wings. One is women and the other man. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. And so this quote, I used to see as an external problem. Like men need to get themselves together and really just like, come on, men. But because we're trained as women to live in a man's world and to survive it, we've internalized so many behaviors that we think we should be exuding and put forth in meetings. So we think that when I'm successful, I should wear a suit. My hair being a certain length is not professional. And it wasn't until I had cancer that I really dug deep into this quote. Because when I went to a healing, so when you're said you have cancer, you're like, okay, what do I need to do to stay alive? Okay, there's healing methods from all over the world. I'm going to try all of them. And so I got really into energy. Why did this happen? What are my thoughts telling my body? And so I went to this holistic place where people were learning how to be healers and read your energy. And so this one particular time, I sat in a chair, and there were a whole bunch of people around sitting in chairs, and you get 3 healers to come and read your energy. And so what I learned there was this side is our feminine. This side is our masculine. And the first healer comes, and I'm sitting in my chair, and they're like, wow, look at all this space. You're really developed. Your masculine side is just, it goes on and on and on, just so much space. And they said, but when I get to the back of your chair, and I try to go around you into this side, there's barely, like I can't even fit. And they said, it's dying off over here. And this was the side where I had breast cancer. And so that made me wonder, okay, was that just a fluke? But then the next healer comes by, and they were like, oh, so much light, so much over here. This is, oh, you're doing so great. But there's no existence. There's nothing here. And then the third healer said the same thing. They didn't talk to each other. They just read my energy. And so I was like, okay, so what does that mean? So then I went to another medical intuitive. And she said that women are under such attack right now. We don't even know what it means to be a woman, because we've had to conform ourselves so much to a man's world to survive, that we take on the masculine. And so the physical harm that's happening from my mental self and other women, believe it or not, every woman that I've met that has had breast cancer, it's always been both or just on the left side. I have not met a woman that has had it on the right side only. And so the medical intuitive said that we're under such attack right now mentally because we have no format or understanding what it means to have feminine qualities and to put that forth in situations. So things like our intuition, our compassion, these, what some would say soft, soft emotions, is what we bring to the table, but they're not given the value that they need in order to be a part of the decision-making process. And we're just told to be quiet. And so that's where I found my voice, was when I had cancer. And women, when you feel a lump in your throat, that's your body telling you you need to speak. And men, when women speak, it might come out clumsy, it might come out forceful, but that's because we haven't been given the opportunity to practice. So be patient and think through, what is the message she's trying to tell me? Not so much the delivery, but what should I gain from what she's saying? And even though it's different from how you're thinking, think of it as the other wing trying to develop. Inside of me, my wing was literally dying off. My flight was impossible. And so as a society, this is something we really have to work on. And it is essential that men engage in a careful, deliberate examination of attitudes, feelings, and behavior deeply rooted in cultural habit that block the equal participation of women and stifle the growth of men. The willingness of men to take responsibility for equality will create an optimum environment for progress. When men own the equality of women, there will be no need for them to struggle for their rights. So this is needed by all of us. So the greatest cause of bereavement and disheartening in the world of humanity is ignorance based upon blind imitation. And there's this other quote that says, blind imitation of the past. So blind imitations. Let me check time. Oh, okay, I'll just tell one story. But the things that I have up here are why a man buttons a suit. I mean, the two buttons on the bottom, you unbutton them. Does anybody know why? So rumors have it, and tell me if I'm wrong. Well, you say it.
A former, maybe 100 years ago or so, a British royal was so fat that a fully buttoned coat made him look stupid.
Yeah, made him look stupid. So the tailor literally ran around the whole town to tell them to unbutton the suit so that he can tell the king at the time that this is the fashionable thing, so that the king wouldn't feel bad that he was gaining weight. And to this day, when I see the buttons, I'm like, oh man, like that really just is, we're just carrying that over and nobody even knows why. The other one is, let's see, a man walking the daughter down the aisle when they're getting married. Very traditional thing, very beautiful thing. A lot of us are thinking, of course the father's going to walk down and just support our baby going down the aisle. But where that tradition comes from is the handing over of property from the father to the husband. And some historians are trying to fight it, but what's been traditionally said is that it goes from Miss, M-I-S-S, or M-S, of owning of the father, so that's how you knew she wasn't married, to MRS, which was MR''S. So now I'm belonging to Mr. Taylor. So I went from Miss Segovia to Mr. Taylor. That was the property switch. Let's see. So this other one, okay, so guy looks normal, right? Looking at our phones. So I want you to remember this forever. Now that you look at your phones every single day. So the keyboard, does anybody know about the keyboard? Nobody knows about oh my God. So the keyboard, okay, our alphabet is clearly A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, S. So back in the day, a lot of you have never worked on a typewriter, but the typewriter was actually first made with A, B, C, D in alphabetical order. And for those of us that did use a typewriter, you know that if you did it really fast, the keys, so you hit A and a thing would hit the page and put an A on the page. So if you did it really fast, all the keys would kind of jam up. Then you'd have to pull them back one at a time, jam up. And people used to get so frustrated that they started taking the typewriters in to get fixed, saying it keeps jamming up. So instead of figuring out how to fix the problem, they got social scientists, I don't know who at that time, but they said, how can we fix this? And so what the scientists did at that time is they rearranged the keys so that the most used letters are with the weakest fingers, causing us to slow down when we typed. That's why the keyboard is the way it is. Now, this is how ingrained we are in blind imitation of the past, and then also just following along, not changing anything. So now when we have computers, that's not an issue, right? Because the keys wouldn't go up. So now we got computer, and they actually made the keyboard with A, B, C, D. They said, well, that's no longer a problem, but no one would buy it. No one would buy it. So then they went back to the old way of what it is now and what we see on our phones. That's how ingrained we are with blind imitation of the past. And then the last thing that I'm going to mention about this slide is Thanksgiving. So every Thanksgiving I struggle so much. And I'm like, forget it. I'm not gonna go to my family's house. I'm gonna boycott. Like, I know what this does to the indigenous community because they think of it as a day of mourning. And I put on my post, okay, yeah, no, a day of mourning. Yeah, my indigenous brothers and sisters and blah, blah, blah. And this would happen. This is what I'm not going to my family. And then I end up at my family's house because of the disunity that it causes. And so then I, in my right mind, I'm like, okay, you guys know on Thanksgiving, this is what really happened. So if I'm going to be here, we're going to have this conversation. And I've been doing this for about 5 years. But I still keep participating in Thanksgiving, knowing the pain that it causes a whole fraction of humanity. And that just made me think, like, how do you change a system that's so ingrained? We would all have to just agree we're not doing this anymore. We have to bring healing to the indigenous populations. And this is one way that we can do it. It's one way. If we could just stop doing Thanksgiving. So I continue on that path to trying to stop, but it makes me realize how difficult it is and how we have to put even a more concerted effort in doing so. Because if my family unit said, yeah, Syda, we're not gonna do it, it would make it so much easier. And in community organizing, In community organizing, when you're in a room, any place, it takes 3 people to do a movement. 3. In order to get people mobilized, there has to be one person that goes against the grain of what's going on and saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't feel it's right. But just like me with Thanksgiving, I'm standing alone. So there needs to be a second person to support that person. So the first person said, we're not doing this anymore. The second person needs to immediately, yeah, I believe you're right. I believe in that too. And so then that encourages the first person to keep going. So that second person, even though you're not the first one to go through the door or start a new path, you supporting that one is helpful. So now you need a third person, because now with the third person, it becomes a core group and now makes everybody else question, am I the right one or are they the right one? And if there was more of, yeah, that's how I felt too, but I'm just not brave enough. I don't want to cause a scene. I don't want to do anything. The 3 people gives everyone else permission that did feel the same way to now join along. And so it's important when you feel a certain way, if you have enough courage to stand up and go against the grain, do it. And when you see somebody doing that, encourage them. And then if you see that happening, be that third person to start the movement. Don't let anybody stand alone in this. We all have a role. It's 5:00. How are we doing on time? Okay, I'm just going to go through consultation and then we'll. So unimaginable horror, consultative will. So during my studies, I studied this document called The Promise of World Peace. And in it, it's about 20 pages long in a pamphlet, so it's not that long. But there was this one sentence that just stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, wait a minute. And it said, world peace is inevitable. We will get there through unimaginable horror or consultative will. The choice is up to those that inhabit the earth. So consultative will is what I started to really examine. What does that mean? So consultative will means that we all come together for the collective search for truth. And then we move forward together because we want to see what that truth is. And so just like in the picture, we're all trying to figure out what is truth. So you see that one person is thinking, oh, tea is part of truth. They say it out loud. That now belongs to the group. Now the whole group knows about, oh, okay, tea is a part of the truth of truth. And then the next person's like, oh, I dreamt about this. R is a part of the truth. I know. So now they say it out loud, belongs to the group. Everybody's like, okay, TR, what else? What else is part of the truth? And the other person's like, oh my gosh, my mother told me about this and my ancestors spoke of this all the time. You is a part of the truth. And they say it out loud. Everybody knows that now TRU are part of the truth. So this other person here sits there quietly, knows the answer, but doesn't say it, doesn't share it. It could be for reasons that they felt belittled by these people before, and they're just not going to believe them. It can be that they're just not sure, and they're scared to say anything. But they have the truth, the rest of the letters that the group needs. And so what I tell people when I bring them together in community groups is that this is a consultation. We all are obligated to say what we're thinking, even if we feel it's wrong or left field or doesn't have to do with what we're talking about. But if you have a thought while we're in this process, please share it. It is your obligation as a human being to help us get to our highest potential and fulfill our purpose as a group. We might not need it, but your thought might spark another thought. We don't know where this is going to go, but what we need to do is create a safe space enough for us to at least say things. So consultation should involve the people that have information about a topic, will implement the decisions, and will be impacted by the decisions. Those are the people that should be in consultation together, creating a plan. And now consultation is not a debate, and it's not a conversation. Consultation is a framework to get to collective search for truth. And I'm just going to briefly go over this. So elements of consultation is that you make decisions as a group. Everyone has access to the same information. Everyone is mindful of power dynamics. Everyone equally can be a part of addressing the problem. Ideals are offered for the benefit of the group. So this is not your ego, I'm trying to do this, I'm pushing my agenda, and this is what I'm trying to win over to everybody. This is us in a humble posture of learning, trying to figure out as a collective to get to the goal. So people, everything is done in confidential and without attribution. A group collectively makes and owns the final decision. So if I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is what we should do, it is no longer mine. It is the group's. And then the group moves together. Ideally, all agree, but if a vote is necessary, the majority rules. And once a decision is made, the group unites behind it. So that's the most important thing, is that the group stays unified. Because if you start to fight within the group, you can't move forward. But if for the sake of unity, you kind of feel like, this is a weird way to do this, I knew it was a right turn and not a left turn, eventually the group will realize that. And so to go along for the sake of unity and detach your ego and your thoughts, the process now becomes the journey of the group. I just have 2 more slides. So effective qualities to help create a safe space are having a humble posture of learning, truth-seeking, honesty, patience, forgiveness. These effective qualities help each other bring out the best in one another. So you have to hold yourself accountable so that these qualities are present in the room. Kindness, seeing commonalities, detachment, authentic emotion, creativity, honoring each other's dignity, believing and honoring each other's lived experience. So these are not academics all the time. Yes, they're in the room, but people from all walks of life should be able to make a decision because they're impacted by it. Some things that are ineffective. So if you want to shut people down in any room, any arena, keep acting like this. This is 100% what shuts people down. The ego, negative body language, competition, not engaging and withholding, stubbornness, impatience, gossiping. Gossiping is the worst that you can do. Having quick assumptions, belittling, suspicion, denying others their experience and their truth, using coded language. And so what I do in consultation with community members, This is a systematic learning cycle, so having a humble posture of learning, if we all looked at this time period in humanity as a learning time, then we can move forward faster. So there's learn, plan, act, and reflect. And if you move through phases with whoever you're creating solutions with through this phase, it gives you the opportunity to learn and build upon that learning. Individuals, communities, and institutions are all needed. So make sure that people from each of those, what are called the three protagonists, are in the room, because if they're not in alignment, there is no forward action. One will stop the other. And so you have to get everyone on the same page with what needs to be done. Okay, almost. So this one helps me in every arena I'm in, with teams, with my family, my own understanding when I'm at work, and I apply it to community. So in order for us to have a successful outcome, there needs to be 5 things in place: vision, skills, incentives, resources, and action plan. All of them need to be present in order for there to be success. If one of those boxes is missing, it causes an emotion in us. So whether it's an individual on a team or a community or a city. So you can look at like what boxes are missing. So if the vision is not clear, that's going to cause confusion from your team. If the team doesn't have the proper skills, it's going to cause anxiety. If there are no incentives, then there's going to be gradual change. If there are no resources, people will be frustrated. And if there is no action plan that's clear, you're going to have false starts. So I want you to just take this knowledge and apply it to every situation that when you're looking at the world, when you're trying to get people to move forward. And this, in order for us to come together as one human family, what do we have in place? And what is missing? And so I encourage all of you to follow us on social media. And this is Organic Oneness, to continue learning about the processes and the things that we're putting together that really get to the essence of what people are thinking about. So imagine oneness. We're interviewing our participants in our programs and asking them, what does a world look like without racism? Because if we can't see it, we don't know where we're going. We don't know what to do. So we have to figure out, how do we see this so clearly, this North Star? We have to be creative and imaginative with that path. It's something we've never seen before. Let's see. Okay, so, and as you are on this journey, be sure to take care of yourselves as you transform society. You should care for yourself just as you care for others. Because if you're not at your healthiest state, then you're not as helpful as you can be in advancing us to a better place. So the first step starts with you. Make sure that you are the strongest that you can be. Make sure that you are crafting your skills so greatly that you can then help wider society. All of us were created uniquely from anybody else in the rest of the world. There's nobody like you. Nobody has your gifts. Nobody has your thoughts. You're a perfect combination that is needed. And all of us were chosen to live during this time period. We're all given specific gifts to get us through the time period that we're living in. We weren't born 100 years ago or 100 years from now. Right now is where you are meant to be. And the way you were created is what is needed to help us get to a better place. So lead with love. Yes, you can do this. You got this. Stay hopeful. Follow us on social media. Thank you. And I guess we can go on to questions now.
So you've worked with many organizations over the years. What are some common mistakes well-intentioned allies make when trying to engage in racial justice work?
So some common mistakes that I see is that we think we know better. We go into communities thinking that I'm here to show them how to be, that I have the answers. I have the answers of how they should live life. That they're not as good as they can be if I don't show them or teach them. So having the mentality that we're better than whoever we're working with is probably the most harmful thing that we can do. And so it's best to have an asset-based community lens, meaning that you see the positive, the gems that are there, what's already there. And I'm now a contributing factor to what they're already doing. The assumption is that we're helping people because they need help. They don't know better. That's the assumption. So what we should think is it okay? So what we should think is, this is a member of our human family, and I want to be helpful in service. And you let them guide what direction you're going in.
As a Baha'i, how does your faith inform your work in social justice and community building?
So all those frameworks that I showed, so consultation is a Baha'i framework. Seeing the beauty and diversity is one of the principles. Understanding the interconnectedness of all people in the earth, that's Baha'i way of thinking. Those are the principles. Truthfulness being the foundation of all human virtues. Justice is the best beloved in my sight, turn not away therefrom. The oneness of humanity, all these things that I talked about are principles of the Baha'i faith. The oneness of religion, the oneness of God, the oneness of humanity. So those are all teachings of Baha'u'llah.
I would like to do one kind of upper question before I hand it over to the crowd. It's really hard to get caught up in all the things going on around us. What is something that gives you hope for the future?
Seeing people working together, seeing smiling faces. So if you can do anything, or if you can't do anything, you can at least smile. You can smile when you enter a room. You can smile at people that are walking down the street. That goes a long way. Being people that are encouraging, that are just kind of cheerleading, like keep going, this is needed. That feedback is really helpful, because sometimes I feel like I'm just shooting in the dark, like just like, I'll try anything. Okay, let's try this and let's try that. And you have a thought, all right, let's do that. Let's see what happens, So having people to work with that are just as excited about bringing peace, that gives me hope. And we joke about it sometimes, like, man, that was rough. That didn't turn out how we expected, but we'll learn from it. I see things kind of like the scientific method of like, okay, let's hypothesize, let's I think this will happen. All right, let's learn from it. Okay, and let's take what worked, what didn't, and let's try again. So just being with people that have that same kind of mentality, that gives me a lot of hope.
Absolutely. I'd like to open it up to the crowd now if we have any questions. We do have people running microphones, so if you do, please hold until you get the microphone.
You talked a lot about the importance of community. How would you recommend working with individuals that maybe aren't as willing or as like kind of having this talk about the kind of change that you want to make?
How do, say it again? How do I?
Just like how to work with individuals and maybe when like in a community when you're getting pushback or when there's people that maybe kind of want to keep things the way they are, how would you recommend working with them?
That's a great question. So honestly, what I do is I don't even put attention into that anymore, into that person. What I tend to do, and I'm not saying that it's right. There are people that are just like, yeah, those are the people that I want to change their minds and I want to, like work on them. So that's needed. That's not my role. What I find when I bump into someone like that, I just say, okay, great. It's great that you feel that way. Wonderful. If you ever want to do this, please join us. And then I find other people that are like-minded. There are some people that thrive on finding the difficultiness of, they're on this side of history and the coin and, but I thrive with the people that are on the same path. And I like to keep them going. I like to encourage them. That's my strength. But if you have the strength and the will to be like, yeah, I'm going to get into a conversation with these people, and by all means, if that is your calling, it is needed, please do it. That's not my strength, unfortunately. So that's another answer to your question, is that, everybody has a strength, and we're all coming at this from a different angle. And so really understand what is your inner workings and your passion and the way you do things naturally, and just put that to work.
I've got one for you, Syda. I think we have a tendency to idolize folks that are successful in leadership roles and successful in those positions, even if you fall into them, as you mentioned. But I was hoping, would you mind telling us a story about a time when you stumbled and didn't do it exactly right? Just to, again, seeing the human side of you in this work too.
Oh man, so many times I failed. So this was with the Baha'i community, and the Baha'i community is very diverse, very diverse. So you have refugees from Iran, you have people coming from Mexico, you have Chinese American, so in this one particular meeting, I'm with a group of people, and it was during the uprise of George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd, and all that was going on in the country. And in this particular meeting, I was the only one from Chicago, born and raised in a Latinx community. And I lost my patience horribly, because I got so tired of explaining what was going on. I felt like it should just be common sense. You should know what's going on in the country. You should know what's happening here, and how dare you even question us doing this, and we need to refocus our strategy. And I just went off. And then later, I questioned myself, and I was like, how would they even know? Like, they're in their own survival world. You know, like a refugee from Iran is not even thinking, like, they're glad they're here because they just fled the violence that we're trying to deal with here. You know, and so that's one time that I really failed. One thing in the Baha'i community is to hold ourselves accountable. And so my parents raised me that each night I review, how did my day go? Where did I fall short? And then the next day, go correct it. And so in the next, for a few of the individuals, I text them the next day, and they said, no, I completely understand. Like, we should know, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, but I should have been more patient. And so there was a beautiful back and forth of holding ourselves accountable to the situation. And then in the next meeting, I apologized. But those, at that time, you know, everyone was very gracious with me being impatient. And so I'm grateful for that, because now when I'm in other circles and I'm encountering that again, I can calm myself and say, okay, don't go there. They don't know. They're in the suburbs. They don't know what's going on the South Side. I can't be mad. And it's funny because I find that God keeps putting me in that same scenario, and I'm like, oh, I'm being tested again. So now I can see it. I'm like, I'm gonna master this time. Like, they're not gonna get on my nerves. I'm not gonna lose my patience. I'm not gonna be mad. I'm just gonna be loving and patient. And so I see times where I failed, that God will give me another opportunity to get it right. And I just have to be watchful and mindful.
I also have a question. I'm wondering, speaking about being overwhelmed with news, and then also friends and family that come and say, oh, look, did you see this thing? Did you see this thing? If you've been removed from social media for 5 minutes, it seems like something's going on. And we had a lovely discussion at our last event, and I'm wondering if you can touch upon that again, of how you care for yourself with all of the things going on a daily.
So, yeah, after blowing up so much at people and dealing with cancer, you kind of know your boundaries of what is harming me and what is making me whole. And with the news, constantly listening to that, and my family members texting me of like, did you see this? Did you see, now this is happening? It becomes overwhelming. And there are some people that can handle it, you know, like, okay, we gotta do the policies and we gotta work on this. Again, you gotta follow what your capacity is. But with me, less is more. Okay, what's happening with certain things that will impact me and the people that I love. Okay, the Department of Education, I have student loans. That is applicable to my life and the people that are around me. So I'm gonna jump in and out. What's happening now? I'll Google it. I'll go to, so that's very minimal. The news is very minimal. But I do go to the local town, the local city. So in Chicago, we're broken up into wards. So our alderman has town hall meetings. Our association has meetings at our condo. There's the community gap. So that is like a radius of blocks that comes together, block clubs. So those kinds of things I attend to inform me of what needs to happen. And then the news, of course, seeps into that because people are like, oh my gosh, I can't have a housing voucher because of this. And so then I'm like, okay, I got to watch that because that's really impacting all of us here. So that's because we'll get lost. We'll get so lost in what's going on that we'll lose what our target is, we'll lose what our purpose is. And so we just have to stay focused and not let everything just kind of circle around us and push us here and push us there and take us off our focus. So that's what I do to kind of help me stay grounded.
Thank you.
So as you've been talking, I've been thinking a lot about the intersectionality of capitalism killing us and all of these things, specifically around the blind imitation you were talking about, the Thanksgiving practice, right? My family has been pushing back at this practice, like, this is a horrible holiday, why do we do this? And then, you know, our parents are like, yeah, and it's a really nice needed break, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
whether or not we practice the holiday in the same way. And so trying to change systems of capitalism within a racist structure also comes with the fact that we are unhealthy, right? In our systems we're a part of, not in our physical and in our physical bodies, but like, I'm talking about the systems right now, right? So I'm curious in the intersection of these pieces, right? What you've been talking about and in the health journey that you were on, where do we see the activism and the work that needs to be done, our purpose? How can we feed that in a healthy way so that we're not bogged down with the capitalistic structure around us? And you don't have to have an answer, just more like what you think.
Yeah, that was...
This is a huge question,
That is
sorry.
amazing. I kind of want to hear your answer and what you think. Okay, so just so I heard your question right. So within a capitalistic society and racism and unhealthiness in our structures and our practices, how can we change that, or how?
Got me while I was drinking coffee.
My bad. My question was more, where do we start?
Where do we start?
With making ourselves the healthy versions of ourselves so we can enter this work,
Yes.
knowing that the systems that we're in are also not perpetuating that health.
Yeah. I want to do Fortress of Wellness again for that. So I did a talk earlier about the Fortress of Wellness. And that is being intentional with creating what wellness is for you with all the whirlwinds of everything that's going on. And I had an image of a tornado, just life is a tornado, just constantly going in. But if you ground yourself in the center, then you can be stable. Then you can just see like, okay, there it is, but I'm grounded. And so that takes a lot of work. I went on a quest trying to figure that out while I had cancer. And yeah, it's being in close proximity to people that fill your cup. And it's as simple as connecting with hearts that bring you joy. It's as simple as, you know, putting a picture on your nightstand of people that you love. And understanding our bodies and the earth and what's needed, and then kind of filtering out, like just being very clear. I need this many times of this many minutes of sun. I need these many cups of water. I need, to pray and meditate. And so crafting a schedule and your surroundings with things that bring you joy and don't deplete you, that's a start. So it starts with our own health and being very conscious of it. Then surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. There are some people that, I've had to stop talking to just because my energy felt depleted when I was around them. And I can't afford for that to happen. And then just figure out, gain the mental muscles to keep out all the noise. So what am I aiming for? What are my goals? Who's on the same page? And then start taking steps forward. If that even answered your question. It's a big question.
And I have to mention, she had us earlier, take out your phones and put it in your calendar now.
Yeah.
Not in a week from now, right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for this talk. It was very informative and enlightening and just an affirmation of being on that healing journey. For me, growing up in my own life experience, maybe similar upbringing. I was born in Joliet, so right outside Chicago. So very much a fighter. But a lot of things that you said, not being in the negative and being, collaboration and you're conserving your energy and what's filling your cup versus, depleting. Do you have any recommendations on books, to help you grow in this area? I find myself with what you said of putting on my own oxygen mask before I can help others around me. But, what you said, like listening, dipping my toes into what affects me. I like the illustration you had, individual, community, institutional. But for me, I guess welcoming in this divisive time and climate, the administration that I can't resonate with that perspective, but how to be open-minded to, honest, open, and willing to hear something that I'm missing or being I guess for me, praying a lot, pray for the office or the administration that I don't resonate with, but still trying to be see them as humans,
Right.
Seeing them as a brother and a sister. And so having that compassion, that's where I'm, I guess, trying to be out of Belinda, this human experience, and being outside, trying to be what they see and what they think. And I don't know if that makes sense, but just having that openness, because I know there's, three sides to a story. There's mine and the truth. And how do I navigate that? So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Whew, these
And I would
questions are
add to that,
something.
are you going to be working on a book anytime
was just-
soon?
Thank you. So a Baha'i community member is trying to figure out how do we get this all into a book. So that's funny that you asked that. But so we definitely have to use prayer as a tool. So it's great that you're doing that, because that gives us strength to figure out, how do we navigate what is happening? Not only with, the administration, if we're against it, but just anyone that is just completely harmful or abusive, or, how do we find the humanity in them and continue to lead with love? I think that's one of the hardest things to do. we also have to be very careful with where we put our energy. Because time is very limited right now with how things are moving. So do you want to put time into destructive forces and unravel that? Or do you want to put time into a new way of being and grow that? And now everybody, again, has different gifts. There are the people that when, I see the old world just dying off. And so the people that are strong enough, I see them as people that work with the dying population. And they have such amazing hearts to help them transition, that they can be in that arena where with other people, it hurts. And I don't want to see this process. And I don't want to, so everyone, again, has special gifts. So if you're strong enough to be in that environment and constantly be subjugated to certain behaviors without harming you, then great. Go forth and conquer and try to understand. But part of me is very hesitant because when that crumbles, then what will we have? And so I'd like to encourage people to use your energy to build a new way in society. But again, everyone has their own special gifts. So if you're helping, if you feel like you're good with the birthing process or the dying process and the skills that you have, definitely put energy there. But I would be very guarded just to make sure that you're not bringing harm to yourself.
I want to be mindful of time and afford us the opportunity to continue to enjoy refreshments and to connect with Syda. So please join me in thanking her and Rachel for hosting us this afternoon. Thank you to you both. So please, by all means, stick around. There's still plenty of food. There's information both about the Kaufman Institute and Organic Wellness at our table back there. Organic Oneness, thank you, where they do wellness. So by all means, feel welcome to stick around and connect with one another. Thank you so very much for coming. And for those of you from our community that made the journey out to Allendale, a special thank you to you as well. So have a wonderful afternoon, friends.